The first mention that the Kapaliswarar temple actually celebrates Panguni Uthiram is from Gnanasambandar in his 7th century Poompavai Padigam. Among the 10 verses that he composed in order to give new life to Poompavai, who had passed away because of a snake bite, Samandar describes the Panguni Uthiram festival. Maliviழா வீதி மடநல்லார் மாமயிலை கலிவிழா கொண்டான் கபாலீச்சரம் அமர்ந்தான். In that Mailai where there are beautiful streets, in the age of Kali, Kapaliswara is living. ஒலிவிழா பாடல் செய் பங்குனி உத்தரம் நாள் பலிவிழா காணாதே போதியோ பூம்பாவாய். That Panguni Uthiram festival, where women sing songs, have you, O Poompavai, gone away without witnessing it? It is interesting to see that every verse of this Poompavai Padigam describes one festival in the Kapaliswarar temple, and the Panguni Uthiram festival is one of them. What is even more fascinating is the fact that what Samandar saw, we are also seeing after so many years. It establishes an amazing continuity and a contact or a connect with history long gone by. Thereafter, we have a long hiatus in the history of the Kapaliswarar temple. We don't know what happened. There are several theories that have circulated. One among them is that the Portuguese demolished the temple where it stood by the sea, and much later it was reconstructed inland. But there are no historic records. At the same time, it cannot be denied that till recently, artifacts and structures belonging to a temple have surfaced near the San Thome seacoast, and probably therefore it is the truth. But at the same time, it cannot be said with authority that this is what happened. It is also likely that the temple just deteriorated over time and had to be reconstructed elsewhere. We then get to see Arunagirinathar coming in the 15th century and composing Thirupugal on Singaravelar, but he mentions nothing about Kapaliswarar or Karpagambal. And therefore, it is likely that the Singaravelar temple was an independent shrine that later got amalgamated into the Kapaliswarar temple. In the 17th century, with the coming of the British, we have greater clarity on the history of the temple. We know that Nattu Muthayappa Mudali, in whose name a street still exists in Mylapore, was a Dubash of the East India Company in the 18th century, and he took up the restoration of the shrine. It is very likely that the tiny effigy that we see of a praying couple in the front Gopuram of the shrine, in the eastern Gopuram of the shrine, is that of Nattu Muthayappa Mudali. Thereafter, there is a gap once again, but towards the end of the 18th century, we get to know that Kanakaraya Mudali, another Dubash, and also a man in whose honor there is a street in the city, was then the Kanakapillai or accounts keeper of the exports warehouse of the East India Company. He took up the administration of the temple, and we also get to read from Colin Mackenzie's manuscripts that during the time of Kanakaraya Mudali, or just before that, the 4 streets had narrowed down to become mere lanes, and he, at his own expense, ensured that people were evicted and the streets were broadened to their present length or width. Kanakaraya Mudali also got the processional icons made and mounts designed for them to be taken out during special festival days. Succeeding Kanakaraya Mudali was Pammal Subbaraya Mudali, and we get to know that he built the temple chariot, spending a large amount of money. Therefore, from the 17th century, 18th century onwards, we can see that the temple festival began to grow once again in size and stature. In the early years of the 19th century, there were differences between 2 vertical divisions in Madras society known as the left hand and the right hand castes. Each objected to the other's use of cloth for putting up the pandals in the 4 Mada streets of Mylapore. One had 5 colors and the other preferred white. and they protested against the other. The East India Company considered it to be a matter of prestige to conduct the temple festival, and therefore it ruled that neither of the parties' colors would be used, and the company's colors would be used thereafter for the pandals. When it came to the question of which community's flag would fly on the temple chariot, the company solved it in its own way by saying that St. George's flag would fly on top of Kapaliswarar's chariot. And thereafter, the temple festival was held. By the early years of the 20th century, the temple festival had acquired its present contours, and it became what we see as of now. Starting from the first day when the flag is hoisted on the flagstaff to the 10th day evening when the flag is removed, it is a time of great gaiety and splendor in the area surrounding the temple. On each day, 5 icons come out of the temple in procession twice a day. These are the dancing Ganesha who comes out first, followed by a frieze of Shiva as Somaskanda, with Parvati on his side and Muruga or Subramanya Swami as a baby seated between them. Following them is a standalone icon of goddess Karpagambal, and then we have Singaravela or Muruga with his consorts Valli and Devani, and behind them comes Chandikeshwara, the attendant of Lord Shiva. For 10 days, the icons come out twice a day. There are certain days which are special in this 10-day event calendar. On the 3rd day in the morning, Shiva comes out on what is known as Adhikara Nandi. Adhikara Nandi is a Nandi with human body and the face of a bull, and completely made in wood and encased in silver. It's a huge processional mount on which Shiva is brought out in the morning. The Adhikara Nandi was gifted to the temple by the family of Thandarai Vaidyar, a native doctor who practiced in Ponnambala Vadiyar Street, which is just next to the Kapaliswarar Temple. Even today, the family of Thandarai Vaidyar is given traditional honors on the Adhikara Nandi day. In the 1930s, when the Adhikara Nandi procession happened, the composer Papanasam Sivan was here, and he was so moved that he created his composition Kanakkan Kodi Vendum to describe the grandeur of that procession. On the 5th day in the evening, we have what is known as the Rishabha Vahanam festival. It's actually not in the evening, it happens late in the night. The procession starts at 11 p.m. with Shiva coming out on a magnificent silver bull, Parvati or Karpagambal on a golden bull, Kartikeya or Singaravela on a golden peacock, Ganesha on a silver bandicoot, and Chandikeshwara on a small silver bull. And through the night, the procession goes around the 4 streets of Mylapore, coming back to the 16-pillared pavilion early in the morning at around 5. 40 years ago, this pavilion was not illuminated with electricity. All the lights that would be shown on the deities would be gas lights carried by people. And at 5:45, a traditional waving of lamps will happen, after which the deities are taken back into the temple. One of the special features of this procession is a dance that is performed by the bearers when they take Shiva back into the temple. The mount, the icon of Kapaliswara, the floral decorations, they all weigh quite a bit, and it requires superhuman strength to just carry it, let alone dance. But these people dance to the tune of a Western band, and they carry the deity into the temple. It's a very moving spectacle. On the 7th day, we have the grand chariot coming out in procession. Shiva comes out as Tripura Samhara Murti, carrying a bow and an arrow as he set out to destroy the 3 mythical worlds occupied by the Asuras. The procession lasts for the better part of the morning, and then when it comes back to the starting post, the icons are not brought off the chariots. People stand in queues, climb up the chariot to get a glimpse of Kapaliswara and the other icons, and then come back, and it's only late in the evening that the deities are brought into the temple. The 8th day is the high point of the 10-day festival. That is when the 63 followers of Shiva, the 63 Nayanmargal of the Tamil canon, come out in procession facing the Lord. Bronze icons of these 63 Nayanmars are brought out in palanquins. All of them walk backwards facing Shiva with their hands held together in prayer, and Kapaliswara advances in a giant silver pavilion. Lakhs of people congregate to witness this festival. And it's just not lakhs of people. Deities from surrounding temples also will come to participate in it. The procession will start at 3 in the afternoon and go on till 11 in the night. It will be very hot, and in order to quench the thirst and hunger of the pilgrims who must have come by walk in the old days, Tannir Pandals or water dispensing pavilions were put up by the rich and the philanthropic. This itself is a very ancient tradition going back to the Periya Puranam of the 12th century written by Sekidar. In that he writes that Appudi Adigal, who was one of the 63 Nayanmars, put up water dispensing pavilions and kiosks wherever Thirunavukarasar, one of the greatest of the 63 Nayanmars, went. And so we know that it was a very old Shaivite tradition. Even today, there are two families that have been putting up Tannir Pandals by the side of the temple tank in Mylapore for more than 150 years. They still do it. It's a moving spectacle to just go there, sit there and participate in what they do. They will offer every pilgrim water, buttermilk, they will fan them, give them cucumber and other such cooling objects, and then send people on their way. The Aravati Mover procession ends late in the night, as I said. And next day, Shiva comes out in the evening as Bhikshatana or the mendicant. Parvati comes in the opposite direction and receives Shiva at a particular point, and the couple then go back into the temple. On the 10th day, we have the celestial wedding conducted in the evening. And then late in the night, Shiva and Parvati come out on Ravana Vahana, a grand mount indeed. It is fronted by a player playing the clarinet. And then the temple flag is brought down. That marks the end of the festival. This is also an occasion for a lot of music. Nagaswaram performances happen. In the old days, courtesans danced in front of the deity. That doesn't happen any longer. But after the 10-day festival is over, music and dance events are conducted within the temple precincts. It is a wonderful time to participate in gaiety and piety and to pray to Kapaliswara and be a part of his processions. If you haven't done it thus far, you must do it now. Go ahead this year and participate. The temple festivals begin on the 25th or the 26th of March and go on till April 5th or so. And be sure to go there on the 3rd day or the 5th day or the 7th day or the 8th day or on all days if possible. Have a good time and see you there. Bye for now.